Here's an experiment for you. Take passionate experts in human resource technology. Invite cross-industry experts from inside and outside HR. Mix in what's happening in people analytics today. Give them the technology to connect. Hit record. Pour their discussions into a beaker. Mix thoroughly. And voila, you get the HR Data Labs podcast, where we explore the impact of data and analytics to your business. We may get passionate and even irreverent, but count on each episode challenging and enhancing your understanding of the way people data can be used to solve real-world problems. Now, here's your host, David Turetsky.
Hello, and welcome to the HR Data Labs podcast. I'm your host, David Turetsky. Like always, we try and find brilliant people inside and outside the world of HR to talk to you about what's going on with HR data, analytics, technology, and processes. Today, we're still at the 2022 HR Technology Conference in the beautiful Mandalay Bay Convention Center here in Las Vegas, Nevada. We're speaking today with my friend Mark Hanson, who's VP of Strategy with Lightcast, which is formerly Emsi Burning Glass. So totally new branding. And if you want to talk about that, you can, Mark.
Oh, absolutely.
By the way, welcome.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me again. This is so fun. And yeah, we're always excited to be here at HR Tech. Always excited to talk to our friends, with you guys and your company. It's been wonderful to just stay connected throughout these years. So yeah, pleasure to be here. Yeah, like you said, new name, just rebranded a couple months ago, earlier in the summer. And we spent a year with a very awkward name of Emsi Burning Glass, but it was great for transitioning all of our customers and letting the market know that we're one big, huge, data set now. And we got a chance to merge that together and kind of do the, proper transition to get to a new name and did the proper research around that. And so now, we're excited about the rebrand because now we have a simpler name, something that's very flexible and open that we can continue to add to our services and all of our solutions. And so it's a perfect fit for where we're going next. And, really the theme is like, how do we shed light on, dark places like data sets, all that fun stuff. How do we surface all those insights? So that's where we're going.
And you could find them at lightcast.io, correct?
.io. Yeah, that's the big one. All the .coms are gone. So
all the TLDs are gone. All the good ones. So Mark, the one thing that no one knows about you.
Ooh. So I'm super into cooking shows. And I don't actually cook. I just love watching cooking shows. So that's
while you're eating popcorn.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I'm having a very simple meal. I watch fancy cooking shows, but no, I love just the process. It's so relaxing. So that's how I unwind, and that's usually something I don't divulge to everybody. But yeah,
there you go. Now the world knows.
Yeah, that's right.
But by the way, my son loves Gordon Ramsay and loves watching Kitchen Nightmares.
Yes.
And so we watch all the old seasons, even the newer. They're not on anymore, but we watch all of them. So, yeah.
So good. Our kids are into it, too. They love the British accent on Gordon Ramsay, and he gets all fired up. Yeah, it's perfect.
Gotta love Gordon Ramsay. Hopefully we'll have him on the HR Data Labs podcast at some point.
Someday.
Hopefully he'll listen to this and then go, maybe I should be on that. Not trying to do a British accent at all, by the way. So our topic for today, Mark, is looking at HR data in the world of 2022, what surprised you, what didn't surprise you, and the impacts on HR technology. And then looking at 2023 and putting on your prognosticator hat and predicting what's going to happen in 2023.
Yeah.
Hey, this is William Tincup, and you should know about the You Should Know podcast. It's a topical, fun podcast with Ryan, myself, and a guest, or guests, plural sometimes, and we tackle the most timely topics of the day. Give it a look, give it a listen, and subscribe. Thanks.
Well, it's so interesting because, coming off of COVID and all of the transitions that had to happen for, even people analytics, just general HR teams in general, of the pivot they had to make from basically halting all the cool stuff that they were working on. Right. And they had to switch to safety dashboards and how do we redeploy people to go remote. And so you took a lot of really powerful, roadmaps and completely got disrupted. And so
threw them out the window, basically.
Threw them out the window. And what was fun about 2022 is like, as they came off of that and as restrictions opened up and, people were getting back to work, it's like, now we got to go find people again. Now we got to re-energize, all of our workforce. We have to go hire again. How are we keeping people? And, we dealt with the Great Resignation, and people are just, desperate. So they're just increasing wages and salaries like crazy, and people are just getting poached. And so it wasn't people are quitting and not working more. It was people just jumping ship. So it was more of a great reshuffle, as some have termed it.
Sure.
And now all of the people analytics and talent intelligence and workforce planning efforts have to be re-energized. And so there's been a new way to do that. And now scale was the biggest theme that we saw, is like, we had to halt all of our operations. We had many people doing, kind of bootstrapping, a lot of spreadsheets and
government reporting.
Bringing in government reporting, and doing the safety reporting. Well, now we had people leave on our team. We got to get back more, and so everybody's been looking for more scalable solutions in the marketplace to say we got to reevaluate our HR tech stack. We have to really think about scalable reporting that can react much faster, because nobody assumes that pandemics are never going to be a thing again. There's going to be some other disruption.
Monkeypox has now gotten its first death in California.
Interesting.
Yesterday. So bad.
So everybody's preparing for those disruptions, whether it's market troubles, whether it's pandemic. And so how do we position our workforce? And we need good data to make those decisions, and we can't get caught off guard like we did last time.
We're kind of living in a constant state of shock and constant state of reaction, whether it's natural disasters, whether it's droughts, whether it's floods or storms, whether it's, frankly, Texas had a problem last year where it got really cold all of a sudden and their energy grid couldn't keep up with the demand. So all those things are interrupting the normal course of business, and HR has got to react to it.
They do. And they're also just planning for their retention strategies. It's like, we not only do we need to react to the big things in the market, but it's like, how do we just keep good people?
Yeah.
And and then if we need people, where do we go find them? Because it's getting harder to find people. One of the cool things about working for a data company is we have awesome economists that are writing really fun reports, and they're analyzing the market up and down from all the different areas, and they're like, population trends for the last 50 years, we're not at the replacement rate. We haven't been at the population replacement rate for a long time. There's actually just not enough workers. Even if everybody started having babies in the next this couple of years, it'll be 20 years before they're...
It's a while before they're productive.
Yeah. And so there's trends across the board that are making this talent environment a struggle. And so as companies are thinking, how do we get more sophisticated? How do we link our systems so that we can have good view into our current employee base? What skills do they have? How do we move them? How do we build talent? How do we upskill them, reskill them when we need transitions? Because businesses are always in constant flux of, business strategy change. Oh, new market opened up. Like, they're shifting teams constantly. You can't get away with big rifts anymore. You have to redeploy those people where you can, and getting the knowledge of what is that workforce capable of. Job titles are no longer useful. They're great for categorization and keeping your systems in order, but we need to have a more in-depth view of what are these people actually doing? What are their capabilities? What are their skill sets? And how do we redeploy them in the right spots where we're growing? And where do we go?
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to touch on as you were talking about that is thinking about the recessions that we've seen in the past, which have led to lots of unemployment and lots of depressionists, lots of feeling of, I'm not feeling great about my job, I might not spend as much. We're seeing spending through the roof, consumer debt is through the roof, we're seeing unemployment at all-time level lows, we're seeing tons of job growth every month, which is just not what you typically see in a recession. And so there's obviously mixed signals going on here, and our economists are scratching their heads going, what the heck's going on? And if people are considering laying off, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is, should they reskill them and redeploy them instead of letting them go, causing more disruption in the market by letting them go and having those people start getting unemployment higher again?
Yeah. No, it's interesting. And as you mentioned, that they're scratching their heads for good purpose, because we've never seen this type of market dynamic happen at the same time. So yes, and maybe a definition of it's a recession, but it's certainly not the same as where it's been in the past, because when you have millions of open jobs still and they're seeing job growth, inflation isn't helping that. That's part of, companies are more in a wait and see mode right now than they are to we got to go lay off a bunch of people, because it's actually not that bad. And there's the potential for this could turn around, because there's enough dynamics there that are keeping this, uplift. Obviously the war with Russia and Ukraine doesn't help any matters in terms of global supply chains and and all the issues there. So
and midterm elections, by the way.
And midterm elections will be interesting, and gas prices, all the fun things that everyone loves to talk about. But companies, I think, are more in a holding pattern. What's interesting is what we've seen from some of the layoffs, from some of the big companies. We have customers that are cheering because they're like, finally, there's some labor that we can go after. So somebody's downfall labor, is they're getting scooped up quickly because the supply is not there. So great for the candidates right now. They have more power than ever to find what they need. Companies are still hiring. They're maybe pausing some of the open requisitions that they have to say, let's not hire too quickly because it must be an essential job. So that's the general trend. We're in kind of a hold pattern. There's some companies, though, that are getting massive amounts of funding because there's still lots of money to be invested out there, and they're hiring as fast as they possibly can with anybody that's available, and they're also offering crazy premiums. So you're seeing really weird dynamics for some of the top well-funded companies. The more traditional, stable companies, they're being very cautious. But yeah, for layoffs, I think most HR leaders need to really think about, before we do that, we need to be thinking a little bit ahead. We can't just react to a recession. Where does the business need to go from a strategic standpoint? Where is the operations, mechanism that need to still operate? How do we lift and shift these people and be much more strategic? And again, it comes back to data. Do we have views into who's in our four walls? We don't want to go hire expensive talent because it's getting extremely expensive.
That's right.
What are the levers that we can pull to keep them here? Is it better learning? Or
upskilling other people to be able to fill in some of that.
Exactly. Yeah. And so redeployment, I think, is the name of the game right now. And how do you get a handle on, getting yourself in a position to have that talent data at your fingertips to be able to be, yes, react when you have to, because we certainly will have to react to something. But how do we be proactive and be really strategic about how we're doing our talent management?
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking subscribe. This podcast is made possible by Salary.com. Now, back to the show.
So what didn't surprise you about 2022?
Everybody's still looking for the best solution. Everybody wants the one size fits all, full end-to-end talent solution that can help them with, sourcing and recruiting and advertising and candidate flow management and onboarding, and then get them in and have the perfect learning system and the perfect dashboards and all the analytics and it's just not out there. And so a lot of companies are making some big strides, but we're excited to see that there's more integration happening. There's more focus on open source, which we're certainly all about participating in the open source world because it's the fastest way to connect good systems together. And a lot of these point solutions are getting well funded for a reason, because they're solving real problems that some of the big systems can't solve for yet. Because as you get big and you're a huge company, it's hard to deploy every feature perfectly. And so that's what excites me about where we're at, is there is this shift to say, we need to focus on our people in a different way, and the systems can help support providing a better experience to retain them, to grow them, and make people's livelihoods better, as an end result. So I think in the end, the employees and candidates are still going to be well taken care of in this type of market. And so the system issues haven't surprised me, and we're seeing really good innovation across the board, which is super fun to watch around HR tech, and see all the fun stuff that's out there and the new ways that people are solving really hard problems.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to actually walk around the entire show because it's just so darn big this year. And there's so many new vendors who had not been traditionally, not just at HR Tech, but in our space, in the HR space. We've talked to a few companies that are non-traditional HR companies. They're not HR companies at all, but they've seen an ability to take what they've been doing for finance and accounting and marketing and sales and looking at HR with that lens of, hey, they've got data, we've got techniques to be able to utilize that. So let's go look at it. And one of the ones we talked about was conversational AI.
Yeah.
Being able to use structured and unstructured data to tell employees and managers interesting things about their world when they need it by asking a question, 4 to 6 seconds, getting a response back.
That's amazing.
It is. But the data needs to be there.
Yep.
Or you'll get back, sorry, someone will return your phone call shortly.
or you get the dreaded spinning wheel as it's thinking.
Right.
It's like, ooh, that was a new one, and we got to pop up some suggestions for you.
Right, exactly. Well, we can't find that, but here are 3 places you can go to get that data. No, hopefully it's not that bad.
Exactly. No.
Hey, are you listening to this and thinking to yourself, man, I wish I could talk to David about this? Well, you're in luck. We have a special offer for listeners of the HR Data Labs podcast. A free half-hour call with me about any of the topics we cover on the podcast or whatever is on your mind. Go to salary.com/HRDL consulting to schedule your free 30-minute call today. So tell me, put on your prognosticator hat. Let's talk about predictions for 2023 and where is the world of HR data going in 2023?
Yeah, I think it's all about partnerships, integrations, and bringing more of these systems together. And along with that is more open system frameworks. How do we plug lots of things in together and be more of the house that plays nice with others? And I think a lot of that is the really big customers forcing that on the HR tech vendors.
Sure.
No longer can you have this isolated, maybe it's the old school, service providers and software providers out there that, for many, many years had a monopoly on lots of this. And now it's like, we haven't pivoted fast enough to cloud, or we haven't pivoted fast enough to, these unique features and solutions that are out there to solve our talent management and acquisition needs. So that's where I predict is more connectivity, more insights that are being centralized, really cool data platforms that are making data lives easier, because you're going to have to scale your teams. You can't just solve it with headcount anymore. You're going to have to solve it with more AI, advanced ETLs to transform that data and take unstructured data and make sense of it in essentially clean data faster as well. I mean, that's still a huge problem for most companies.
Absolutely.
Just because your two systems can connect now doesn't mean that data is clean and ready for reporting.
I see it all the time. Yep. Especially between sources inside of a company like the GL and HR.
Yes.
And not being able to get the right data to the GL, or having to have companies do a lot of manual work to get one system to work with another.
Yes. Yep.
This is 2022. That shouldn't happen anymore.
And even simple things like effective dates, and getting dropped or missed. It's just, and you need that for trend data, for everything. And so, again, I think we're going to see more of what we've seen already this year. I mean, there's nothing, crazy around the corner that I see that would change that flow. The talent shortage is still going to be here. We're still going to see companies trying to do more with less headcount. And so systems really can provide a good solution there, but not everything is, going to be as easy as their marketing says. And so how do we continue to push for the open nature of some of these systems so that we can, play nice together and get the right insights to the right folks that need it so that our economy can still thrive?
Yeah, we've called it democratizing data for a long time. And that means that the people who are able to see the data can see the data when they need to make a decision. And got to facilitate that, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and that's where, we're big fans of, open source and having standard language across that, because, the more we can get people speaking the same language, the easier it is for, the hard things of data that we can bypass that and get to the really cool things of, good insights at the right time and of delivery and of decision making. And that's where, a good challenge for all the HR tech vendors of how do we enable that? Because we all have a unique perspective. We approach it from an external labor market data perspective and try to bring those insights in, but we partner with really cool partners that are doing really cool things with, payroll processing and talent acquisition workflows. So there's plenty of really fun ways to plug in together.
Yeah, and they all provide very valuable, useful signals that help everybody.
Yes. Yeah.
Not just HR.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, when you mentioned before, HR having a more prominence in those full operations discussions, we're still seeing that of the people analytics getting elevated. CHRO is finally having a huge say in where they're going, and they're going to have even more say in 2023 as the talent shortage is actually real. They're going to feel the pain of not being able to hire. They're going to feel the pain of their payroll and wages going up on their books, and saying like, ooh, how can we sustain this? Our margins are being squeezed.
They can't.
And then of course everything else is more expensive with inflation. How do we think about this? And so the people expense, I feel companies are going to have a whole new approach to that of how do we continue to operate well, but how do we maintain those margins? And so the more strategic you can get about where do you find people, how do you optimize your hiring to not just go buy everybody, because you can't afford that strategy. The build strategy is going to have to be front and center for redeployments, for internal talent marketplaces, for splitting jobs apart. looking at gig work, looking at how do we rethink jobs in general. Can we get 2 part-time people to do that instead of 1 full-time people? That workforce planning exercise is going to be more prominent.
But it requires then the manager to think totally differently, to have that ability to search a skills taxonomy, to say, well, I need this and this and this, and that's all I need.
Yep.
And then send it to HR, and HR go, oh, okay, well, that's a gig worker. We can find that gig worker on Fiverr or, wherever. And you don't need to hire someone for that. How long do you need them for? Have we asked that question a lot? How long do you need this job for? How long do you need this gig? What's the project length?
Yep.
Well, if it's only 5 months, then we don't need to hire somebody. We could hire a gig worker for that. And then that gives them the opportunity to think differently about the team and the cost structure underlying it.
Yeah.
Not everybody needs to be a knowledge worker, and not everybody needs to have that intellectual property. And of course, they could be all under NDA, but no one needs to have that intellectual property that you have to retain.
Absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, your core strategic folks, in your domain knowledge experts, of course, you need to retain those. But yeah, you're right. I mean, robotics and AI can solve a lot of things, but they can't solve everything. But a lot of those repeatable tasks, those short-term projects, let's bring in the extended workforce solution to be able to do that with contractors or gig workers. But you're right. The whole underlying structure of how we think about work needs to be flipped around a little bit, because we think in terms of headcount, and we think in terms of filling a seat, and we don't want to lose that budget. And we got to fill that seat. One of the things I love about how much focus around skills is going on, especially at the conference and the customers that we have, is you can finally break down your jobs much easier into understanding what's actually needed to do that. Where do we need to go hire that externally? And is it a hard to find skill set? Or can we find a couple part-time people to maybe, do this together? Or can we totally put it into a project or a gig sort of work environment? And we need to stop thinking about headcount and more about how the work gets done and what needs to happen and the structure in place to enable that.
The one thing I'd add on to that is thinking also about the AI as being a potential for that worker, right? It may cost us a lot of money up front to get the AI capability in-house, but if we can think of that as an investment in the future for when that skill is required again, granted, maybe there's a way of gig working AI. I don't know. but we have to think about that capability of being able to deliver that productivity other ways too. Absolutely. Other ways, you mentioned the other ways, but also adding AI and robotics into that.
Oh yeah. What's automated or automatable, if that's a word, about this role? How can we split this apart? Because you certainly need domain knowledge to exist to feed AI models and to make it work. And so you can't just let go of everyone and expect the computer. That needs to be trained somehow. And so how do we convert some of those roles where we can say, hey, let's take a part of your role, let's advance it. Theoretically, it should advance their pay as well, because it's turning them more into a knowledge role and less into a repeatable task role. And so let's find those experts, let's retain them, let's keep them around, but also let's make work more advanced, more fun, and more valuable, and use those headcount more wisely.
Or train them as gig workers to solve the AI problem based on their experience. Let them go and let them be for your competition. They're going to set up that same stuff for your competition.
Yep.
Something to think about at least.
Exactly.
Mark, it was a pleasure. Anything else that you wanted to talk about for 2022 or 2023 before we close?
No, I think it's always a pleasure to stop by and chat, and it's fun to be in sunny Las Vegas, although I haven't really been outside yet. It's been a busy meeting, but no, it's always a pleasure to be here, and it's fun to chat, talk shop. It's been a pleasure.
Mark, thank you very much. Hopefully we'll get to talk soon.
Absolutely.
But we're definitely going to talk at next year's HR Tech so we can go and check your predictions.
100%. Let's do it.
Thank you very much, Mark. Take care and stay safe.
That was the HR Data Labs podcast. If you liked the episode, please subscribe. And if you know anyone that might like to hear it, please send it their way. Thank you for joining us this week, and stay tuned for our next episode. Stay safe.